Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Revolutionize Your Data Strategy with Microsoft Fabric. I'm Lean Hebri, and I will be your host for today. Joining me as well is Prashant Atri, the Microsoft Senior Cloud Solution Architect for Data and AI, and Balaji Kandregula, the Data and AI Specialist at MSRcosmos. Together, they will guide us on how to leverage Fabric strategically to gain a competitive edge. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items. Today's session will be recorded, and we will share with you the recording and the slides after the webinar. Please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A panel, and feel free to get off of mute if you want to share your questions. And we also reserved some time at the end to address your questions as much as possible. We are thrilled to have you here with us today. Thank you for taking the time away from your customers, away from your projects, to dive with us into Microsoft Fabric, the all-in-one analytics solutions that is transforming how organizations handle data, analytics, and business intelligence. So buckle up your seats. Today we will cover the power of Microsoft Fabric, Fabric mirroring and shortcuts, data agents, and share with you some demos and real case studies. To kick us off, let's start with a high-level overview of Fabric, what it is, why it matters, and how it's reshaping the modern data estate. So please learn and enjoy. And without any further ado, Prashant, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you so much, everyone. We are super excited to have you today. And by this time, you might be super busy with your customers, and if the weather is good, you might be playing golf or whatever, right? But still, you are giving us time. That's a huge step, and we really appreciate you being here. So let's jump into the content, and we have a lot of content to cover today, and we want to make it more interactive and kind of productive. So please feel free to type your questions in the chat. We are monitoring that, and in between, like at the end of the sessions, we will also open for kind of interactive Q&A as well. So now let's jump into the kind of the Microsoft Fabric overview, and kind of how you unlock the strategic aspect of it. So when you see the um, every organizations, right, every business units, every individuals, all of them are trying to kind of think about the AI estate transformations or data estate transformations, right? And as we all know, how AI kind of not only just from a productivity aspect, but the business process automation aspect as well, right? So as you are hearing a lot of terms about like end-to-end data estate transformations or AI transformations, and we will unlock like how the real picture look like, right? And when you think about this end-to-end AI estate transformations, what is really key in the transformation, right? So I think the really foundation of this AI estate transformation is the data, right? Because everyone is trying to be data-driven organizations. You might be hearing a lot of keywords about the democratizing AI or data democratization, right? Let's double click on that, right? When I think about the data democratization, meaning we really want to give the data and tools in the hands of business users, right? And not only just providing this data and tools to the business users, but they should be able to see what all data do I have within my organizations. And at the same time, they should be able to request access to the data, right? So the having a strong data culture, data foundation, that plays a huge role when you think about getting maximum out of your AI investment, right? So now let's double click on like what are the key challenges, what we are seeing across the customers when we talk to all the different kind of CDOs or CIOs or all the different CXO like C-level personas. I think the lot of different challenges, right? The very first thing, when you start kind of, think about this data analytics journey, right? Like typical data analytics journey, in a given organization, you have a different business units, right? And within that business units, right, uh, when you start deploying this data analytics journey, you will have a different products and everything, right? Now, every products having their own kind of data and metadata, right? Having their own cost structure, having their own security and governance, right? So when you think about deploying the end-to-end data and AI strategy, with different products, you are doing too much, like data copy between them, or maybe you need to spend a lot of time integrating all of them, or you will do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of ETL, right, or data copying aspects, right. You will really have security, governance, those areas you will have a lot of challenges, right. So on top of that, right, the governance aspect is data quality and all these different aspects. So what we are trying to do is, like, we are trying to simplify this and across our domain team. So let's say all the different domain team, we want them to spend more time on creating the kind of a data products, because they are close to the data, they are very expert in the data, in their domain. So rather than doing heavy lifting or doing this all of this integrations work, better we can kind of empower them, spending more the time in the solving the actual business problem, creating the data products, right? Those are all the areas we really want them to spend time. And that's where we need to really think about how can we simplify these challenges, right? Like how can we reduce the data copy between different domain team, right? How can we embrace the data sharing or data collaboration culture between them? How can we implement data discovery culture, right? So we want to implement the open and governed ecosystem where all the domain team can collaborate within the same data, right? And kind of in a unified ecosystem, right? And that's where the Microsoft Fabric comes into picture, right? So when you think about all of these challenges, and when you are thinking to kind of simplify this in a unified way, that's where the Microsoft Fabric helps you for your end-to-end data and analytics journey, right? And you might be hearing a lot about the agentic web and all the research paper you might be reading, right? About the how AI agent kind of, transforming the world right now. So, but again, for any kind of a Gen AI or AI agent, all the initiatives, your data plays a key role, because grounding data is the key when you think about end-to-end your AI applications, right? So now, when you think about, as we looked at all the challenges and everything, now let's think about like a little bit of a 3 or 4 different pillar approach, right? So the first thing is all the business units having their data in spreadsheets or somewhere like siloed in a different on-premises systems or legacy systems. And whenever they want to do the kind of analytics between different business units, they need to kind of do a lot of kind of copying the data, and then you do the analytics on top of it. So the first step we really want to do is how can we bring all of these different data from a Salesforce or any other platforms, right? Bring it in a nice kind of in a unified way in a single kind of a platform, which is very open and governed. So you don't run into a different formats and that kind of thing, right? See, so all the personas, whether it's data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, all these personas can collaborate in a single ecosystem. So you bring all of the data in a single unified storage. That's the step one. Now, once you have that, that's not enough, right? Basically, we also need to do the cleaning and prep on top of that. So if you look at the all the data scientists, they spend, I don't know, n number of hours, like spending a lot of time kind of cleaning and prepping the data, right? So that's where the step two comes in. There are a lot of kind of low code, no code, or kind of a pro code capabilities within the fabric, where it helps like all these data scientists kind of cleaning and prepping the data, and get the data ready for your next kind of AI applications. Now, on step 3, it is very, very interesting, right? Um, so recently, you might have heard about the data agent capability, and we're going to demo this and talk more about that. But if you are a domain expert and data expert, and you want to really kind of, little bit kind of do the quality check of your data and do the chat with your data, that's where the data agent comes in. Like, so as soon as you have your data available in the Microsoft Fabric platform, your non-technical users, your business users, create the data agents on top of that and implement a natural language interface kind of, experience there, right? So once your domain team helps creating this data agent and validating the data, now, now these data agents and this Fabric knowledge you prepared, it's ready for consumption for any of your consumers, right? On the step number 4, right? So it could be your business users, or it could be you create AI applications on top of this grounding knowledge. So it's up to you, like what all you're going to create on top of that, right? So typically, we highly recommend kind of, when you go through these different stages, the partners like MSR, they really do good job in terms of assessment. So you should really think about the maturity, because every organization, whether it's a small, medium, large, all the organizations having a different kind of a, strategies and then different maturity, right? And sometimes for different organizations, centralized operating model works well. Some of them really like decentralized, some of them kind of federated model, right? So when you want to double click or deep dive on all these areas, right, the first thing is the readiness assessment or maturity assessment, and partner like MSR and kind of help you how you can kind of transform your journey from all the way from step 1 to step 4, right? So now a little bit kind of jumping into the industry aspect of it. So within Microsoft Fabric, right, of course, you can implement all the different data related solutions kind of across industries. But looking at the specific ask from our customers on healthcare and some other areas, we really came up with the Microsoft Fabric healthcare data solutions. That's one of them, right? The other one is the retail and manufacturing and sustainability. Some of them are kind of GA'd right now, and some of them you will see in the future, right? So I just wanted to highlight uh, like there are industry specific solutions available in the Microsoft Fabric. Let me tell you some real world kind of examples. When I was talking to customers, they say like, hey, you really got like cool kind of a workloads in the Fabric, like real-time intelligence, like, but manufacturing customer asked me like, hey, we have data in our devices in on-premises in a systems like OSI Pi or Historian or different devices related data. How can I kind of get this data out of these devices and put it in Fabric? Because that's the critical part or challenging part, right? So the good news is within kind of Fabric, we are working with a lot of kind of partners, and you will see those data lendings kind of a data lending or ingestion aspect will be very simplified down the road, actually, right? So if I have seen many manufacturing customers specifically asking about the real-time intelligence workload within the Fabric, right? A lot of healthcare customer asking or kind of already exploring the healthcare data solution kind of a thing, right? Yeah.
Accelerate the transformation of your data into business value with industry solutions in Microsoft Fabric, featuring connectors, data models, and purpose-built applications that are ready to deploy out of the box. But unlocking that potential starts with a unified pool of data. How do you pull this specialized information into a cohesive, compliant, actionable source of truth? It starts with unifying your data through connectors built for industry needs and regulations. Bring in data from on-premises devices, relational databases, media, and more, and connect your existing industry-specific systems to Microsoft Fabric, paving the way for your AI journey. Next, harmonize and enrich your data with industry-standard models, pre-built in Microsoft Fabric. Structured and unstructured data can be brought together to provide industry context and accelerate data projects. Whether optimizing patient care or evaluating carbon emissions, better data models lead to better data decisions. Finally, activate industry scenarios with purpose-built solutions that matter to your industry. Kickstart the development phase and utilize out-of-the-box templates that are ready to deploy. Combine Microsoft Fabric low-code and generative AI capabilities to enhance your industry-specific solutions and get to insights faster. Across industries, Microsoft Fabric is supercharging ROI, increasing productivity, and delivering enhanced business results. Learn more about the industry solutions that are relevant to your business and make better decisions based on better data.
Yeah, so as you looked at that, right, I think I was talking about all the different industry solutions and all the examples. So if you have any more questions or feedback, if you're looking at any specific features, happy to hear more from you guys on that. And with that, I think, yeah, I'll hand it over to Balaji for the next kind of a, slides.
Thank you, Prashant, for the wonderful start on the Fabric. So let me continue from the point. So thanks everyone for joining us today. So far, I think you definitely had a very good understanding about Fabric and its overall architecture and various advantages of having the data estate on Fabric, and then all the possibilities of AI and ML on Fabric, right? So in continuation with that, so let me give you some of the few interesting facilities and features that are available on Fabric pertaining to the data movement, right? So for any of the data lake platform, any of the analytics platform, so if I want to do any of the data engineering tasks, or if I want to do any of the machine learning tasks, right? If I want to create any of the analytical workloads, I need to bring the data into the platform, right? So either my data can be residing on different sources like Oracle, SAP, or Snowflake, Databricks. So I have different sources which are available. So if I want to create my data engineering workloads or data science workloads or LLM workloads, all the way the data has to be available on the platform itself, on the Fabric, right? So here we will get two questions. Is it really a requirement to bring the data which is residing outside of my Fabric environment? Say I have my data residing on Azure Blob Store, or I have my data residing on Snowflake, or my data is residing on Oracle. So is it really required to bring my data onto the Fabric? If yes, do I need to, depending upon, heavy lift and shift mechanisms, or do I need to use complex ETL pipelines to do this data transformations or data movement from my source systems all the way to the Fabric, right? So the answer to this question is yes and no, right? So in certain scenarios, still my data can be residing in my source system, but still I could able to access the data from Fabric. So this mechanism, we call it as a shortcut, right? Say for instance, I have a lot of data, I have a lot of files which are available in my Gen2 file store, or I have some data which are available in my AWS bucket, or I have some of the data which is available in my GCP. So if I want to do a transformations, or if I want to use the data sets as part of my applications or my pipelines on the Fabric, do I really need to bring them all the way to the Fabric? The question is no. So there is an option called shortcut. Using shortcuts, we could able to hook the external data which is available in the wide variety of sources, whether it is Azure Blob or AWS or Dataverse or Google, or it can be any other on-premise store. If I want to refer to the data, so Fabric is providing a feature called a shortcut. So shortcut at the high level, it is more like it's an endpoint. It's like an external endpoint, like it's like a reference to an external data entity from where you can access the data entity from your Fabric workspace. It's like how you are able to access a local tables which are created within the Fabric workspace. Similarly, we could able to access the data residing on a different workspaces, different domains, different cloud providers, different databases. Still, we can refer them without the necessity or without the requirement of data copy from the external sources all the way to the Fabric world. So that is the advantage of having creation of shortcuts, right? So in this case, you can see I have my datasets which are available in ADLS Gen 2. And we have different files. You can see the CSV files. And these CSV files, if I want to refer in my Fabric workspace, then all I need to do is to create a shortcut. And the shortcut will be referring to these files. And this shortcut I can use like any other Delta table, which is available as part of the Fabric. And I can use this transaction table. And I can, use it like a regular table and go forward with the rest of the transformations. So to see how it works, I have a quick demo. So in this demo, I'm trying to access the data which is available in a mirror database. So I'm going to create a shortcut, and then I'm going to select from where I want to create the shortcut. And then I'm going to select the tables in a different data warehouse. Then those tables are now available as part of the shortcut in my data lakehouse. So this is like shortcuts within the Fabric environment. Similarly, we can also create shortcuts outside of the Fabric environments. If we have data in a different, like a Databricks Delta table, and I can talk to a Delta table in a Databricks environment, and I create a shortcut, and the shortcut can be reflected in my Fabric workspace. So this will help in eliminating unnecessary data movement, and the ownership of the data still lies with the source, right? If we want to do any changes, any security controls, any of the data auditability, all of that still lies with the source, but still the data we can access from the Fabric using the concept of shortcuts, right? So coming to the next feature, where we can actually access the shortcuts in the different workloads, like especially when the data engineers, if they want to do some analysis using Apache Spark in their notebooks, they could be able to access it. Or if I am writing a SQL, or if I'm writing a T-SQL, or if I'm writing a KQL in the real-time intelligence, still we can able to access the shortcuts. Or if I want to access the shortcuts from my Power BI reports and doing the further visualization, still it is possible, right? And if I want to access the shortcuts which are available in Fabric, and if I want to access those shortcuts outside of the Fabric, like I have a, application, and that is referring to the data from the Fabric, and the data is coming from a shortcut, right? Still it is possible. So Fabric is having an API, shortcuts API, or the OneLake APIs. So by using those APIs, still any other applications which are outside of the Fabric environment, still they could access the shortcuts in the Fabric environment by using the Fabric OneLake APIs, right? That's how the ease of access is. And the next feature, very interesting feature, right? Say I have my data residing in Oracle database, or I have my data residing in files in AWS bucket, huge files, or I have my data in SAP. So if I want to bring the data to the Fabric, do I need to really use complex data pipelines, or do I need to develop my own custom scripts to ingest all the data, or do I need to use third-party tools just for the data ingestion, right? So with the recent release of the Fabric last month, Microsoft Fabric has released one of the feature called open mirroring. So using this feature, we are relying heavily on the Delta format, which is a standard open mirroring format. By using that format, Fabric supports mirroring of your data, whether they are coming from a relational databases or if they are coming from a non-relational databases like files, and all of the data can be easily in real time can be replicated into the Fabric mirroring database. So all I need to do is, I need to define my source, and then I need to enable the open mirroring on my source, and I need to create a Fabric mirroring database inside the Fabric, and I can start, enabling the processing, and then all the data will be coming into my landing zone, and from the landing zone, it will do a CDC process, and from the CDC process, the data will be converted into tables within my mirror database in the Fabric, right? So what is the advantage of doing this, right? So let us see a quick demo. Then we can discuss about how actually, what are the various advantages of having data mirroring, and what are the various types of mirroring, and what are the possibilities, so on and so forth. Let me start sharing my video.
SQL Database, Cosmos DB, and Databricks in preview, and Snowflake generally available. And soon you will see our two new sources, SQL Server and PostgreSQL. But now we have a powerful new option, and that is Mirror Database, our open mirroring functionality. Let's go ahead and click and select New Mirror Database. From there, we'll give it a name and hit Create. Now, let's go ahead and show some of the inside mechanics of how open mirroring will work. I have some orders data saved as a CSV file on my desktop. If I go to my folder and I open it, you'll see the rows and the headers. All I have to do is drag and drop it into the landing zone, and the file immediately shows up. Our engine immediately writes initial snapshot and change data, processing it into an analytics-ready format. And just like that, within seconds, my tables appear in OneLake on the other side. A table was generated from the CSV file. I can either go to the replication status to monitor my rows, or I can go to my SQL Analytics endpoint. Let's head to my SQL Analytics endpoint and verify that my rows have been replicated over. Right now, I'm working with around 62 rows of orders data. But as we all know, new orders are constantly being modified or created either through Python scripts or manual updates. I want to ensure every change is reflected. For example, zooming into the first row here, I notice that the order price for this row is wrong, and I need to change this price to $100,000. All I need to do is create more CSV files with only the changes. For this particular row, I have a CSV file that has an upsert. And see, the difference in these CSV files is that it's got a column here that tells us the operation of each row, like insert, update, or delete. I have gone ahead and updated the price to $100,000 for this particular row. But look, I can add even more operations in the same CSV file. In this case, I'm deleting 3 rows, and you can tell that by seeing that the row markers are marked by 2. That corresponds to deleting the next 3 rows from my orders table. And lastly, in that same CSV file, I am inserting 5 rows with the row marker as 1, letting the engine know that 5 brand new rows will be added to my orders table as well. I could have separated all these operations into different CSV files or packed them into the same one like I have done here. Let's navigate back to the landing zone and drag and drop the CSV file here, and the file in the analytics ready format automatically shows up. And now look, the table on OneLake just got updated with these instructions. I can quickly go to my SQL Analytics endpoint and verify that all my operations have been done. The first row has indeed been updated with the correct pricing number. I can also verify that the 3 rows that I have deleted are no longer showing up here as well. And lastly, I can confirm that my 5 rows that I added at the end of my CSV file have indeed been added in here as well.
Yeah, so if we see the power of mirroring, right? So whatever changes that are happening,
Starting
so
right from my Fabric,
getting the data all the way from the source. And if any changes are happening, whether it is an update operation that is happening at the source, or if it is a delete operation happening at the source, they are automatically, tracked because of the open delta format that is being used by the open mirroring. And all of that is converted into a CDC framework. And the CDC framework is implemented into the mirroring warehouse in the Fabric. So if I drop a record, and the record gets dropped in my mirroring database as well. If I update a record, the records get automatically updated in my mirroring database inside the Fabric. Right, so that's the advantage. It's like a more like close towards your real-time replication. Most of the sources, right? Now the whole journey is moving from close to real-time analytics, right? So previously we used to do all the batch process, then the micro batches. Now it's almost like close to real-time ingestions, right? So by enabling this open mirroring, almost whether we are doing a data engineering workloads or data science workloads, or if I have my Power BI reports, which are directly connected to my mirror database in a direct lake mode, right? So that will give the advantage of accessing latest data, and whatever happens in the source within minutes, the data we can bring it onto the fabric, and the same thing can be served into my data science and data engineering and Power BI workloads which are running on the fabric. So now moving on to the another version of mirroring. One, we have seen the open mirroring. So Microsoft is planning to release open mirroring for Oracle, which is still under private preview. And there is another way of doing mirroring from Oracle to Fabric, that is through the Golden Gate. So whether the Oracle is running on Azure, or if the Oracle databases, whether you're running on a hexascale database, or if you're running a autonomous database, or if you're running a 23i, any of the versions of the Oracle databases, if they're on-premise, if they're on Azure, if they are on different cloud provider, by using the Golden Gate and by using the concept of mirroring database in the Fabric, we can enable the real-time replication of the data directly from the Oracle databases all the way to the Fabric mirroring database. So this will give you, like the customers, mostly it's all about, how close you can bring your Oracle data all the way from different tables spreading across different schemas into my mirrored database, right? So once I have the data which is available in my mirror database on Fabric, then you can open up shortcuts on those tables, and these shortcuts can be used by different workspaces, right? So if I have my marketing team working in one workspace, if I have my fintech team working in a different workspace, if I have my sales teams working in a different workspace, but all of these teams can share one single truth of data which is coming from the Oracle into the form of a mirror database on Fabric. And by using the combination of mirroring and shortcuts together, you can create a real-time serving layer that acts like a single source of truth across the enterprise for different consumptions. With these kind of features, what we have discussed, shortcuts and mirroring. So I would like to take this opportunity to discuss about few of the client case studies, what we have delivered using Microsoft Fabric. So one of the use case is about our one of the global manufacturing leader. So where they have same issues of having the data everywhere. It's like a data in disconnected silos. Like I have different SQL, NoSQL, and different flavors of the databases available across the enterprise. Now we need to satisfy the business requirements in whatever delay they're having in their reports. And obviously it's a manufacturing. The more close to the real time, the better the efficiency, right? So how we could able to solve this for this customer? So we have chosen Microsoft Fabric, and let me go over to the architecture. So here we have the data coming from different SAP sources and different non-SAP sources, and also there is another live event feed that is coming from the manufacturing floor, and this is a third-party system. So at the end of the day, if my operational manager, if my resource manager, or my sales manager, if they were doing any analysis, obviously the data has to be combined from different sources, and we need to create a single serving layer that we call it as a gold layer in the modern medallion architecture, right? So in the medallion model, you have bronze, silver, and gold. So bronze is more like your raw data, whatever data that is coming from my source system, and whether it is a SQL or NoSQL, all of the data. And we are using data factory pipelines for the SQLs, and we are using event streams for the NoSQLs, and especially on the real-time APIs. And then we are creating the bronze interfaces in the warehouse for the SQL, and we are using KQL database for the event stream. And all of the data, all the aggregates from my KSQL are coming back to my bronze, and then we are doing the transformations as part of the different data products that we are giving to the customers, and all of the transformations done, and the data will be converted into my silver. And from the silver, we are creating different personas for different business units, and those are called as gold layer data. And gold layer data is like it's like a well cooked, well created version of the data as part of the reporting requirements or downstream consumption requirements, all of that. And this data is be available through different serving platforms. So one of the platform is Power BI, and the other platform where we are exposing the SQL endpoint, and another platform we are exposing the data to the Microsoft 365 platforms, whether it's a Microsoft Teams or Microsoft Power BI, Microsoft Power Apps. So all of the data can be accessible using this gold layer data and by using the OneLake APIs. Similarly, the second case study is about one of our healthcare customer. And here the healthcare customer, the major thing is how you are actually leveraging the standards and how the data lake is in compliance with the standard as per the FHIR guidelines, right? So there is a requirement to implement standard clinical data model that we call it as OMOP. Okay, so OMOP is mostly used by the healthcare analytics, and this is kind of a common data model, open standard data model, where most of the subscribers will rely on it. So if your data is coming from this OMOP, there is a trust, right? Because it is an open standard, and it will satisfy a lot of downstream requirements of healthcare service providers. So the advantage of having Fabric in choosing for this type of a requirement is in Fabric, you have a ready-made available healthcare data model, which is heavily depending upon the OMOP transformations. So in Fabric, you can have all of the notebooks available and all of the predefined data models available and all of the predefined Power BI reports which are available. So all we need to do is like how fast you can bring your data from your FHIR records, right, the healthcare records, and all the way to my reports, right? How fast you can complete this journey in weeks, right? Previously, it should be the same thing can be done in months, but now in weeks. All of that is possible because you have this readily available healthcare data model, which is available in Fabric. And if I want to use the same model as it is, yes. Or if I want to do a customization, it is possible. So I have all the notebooks which are available, and we can do the customizations and deploy the model, and automatically it will be get reflected into my Power BI reports, right? So because of this reusability factor and because of this readily available transformational data models as part of the Fabric ecosystem, and we have significantly reduced the amount of time this whole data journey is taking from my FHIR records all the way to the business users, and significantly reduced. So that will give you a lot of confidence on your data pipelines, and it will give you a lot of trust on the subscribers of the data because we are following the open standards and we are following all the FHIR approved data models which are readily available on Microsoft Fabric, right? So with that, I thanks everyone for this opportunity, and we have discussed different use cases, what at MSR we have delivered to our end customers on Fabric and their success stories. Now I will hand over to Prashant to continue with the rest of the topics. Over to you, Prashant.
Yeah, thank you so much, Balaji. And super cool about the, I think, open mirroring and the other technology. And I see question on the chat. I think, yeah, we'll talk about that once I go through this content. So I appreciate your question. You can think of open mirroring as an extensible kind of solution. So you can extend this to your custom data sources or file formats, whatever. Because the thing is, let's say right now, whatever mirroring database, whatever we support today, and you have some other data source which is not supported today. And that's where the open mirroring, you can extend that solution to your kind of a databases or your data sources, which is not supported out of box, right? So let's continue as we talked about all this open mirroring and other kind of, how you can unify all of your data and bring into the fabric. Now, one of the interesting or super cool kind of a feature here. So it's kind of a fabric data agents, right? So a little bit kind of what is fabric data agents, right? So whether you are a kind of a domain expert or kind of a data expert, right? And since you are close to your domain and you understand the data very well, as soon as the data gets landed into the fabric platform, your kind of a non-technical users or business domain team, they can start creating a natural language kind of interface on top of the data your data engineers and your team created or prepared, right? So they can ask, the way I can think of is like they can help us validate the data from a domain aspect. And once you are happy with the quality of the data and then from a domain standpoint, you can kind of create a data agent and expose this to within Fabric or outside of Fabric. Meaning, like let's say you create a data agent, right, on top of all of these different lakehouse, warehouse, or all of your data items, right? On top of that, when you create it, right, maybe you can expose this kind of to your AI team who is kind of building the custom applications, or maybe the citizen developer on Copilot Studio side, if they are building some kind of a custom applications, they can also use this data as a grounding kind of grounding from the fabric itself, right? So one of the interesting scenario, like we all do like DIY for our at home, right? And we do a lot of projects. And here is the interesting scenario, like let's say you are middle of something like installing in your garage and you look at the kind of one of the part is missing. You started looking at online, you are trying to order this part, and let's say you rush to the store, and by the time earlier it was available, but when you rush to the store, now it's not available, right? So it's a little bit kind of a frustrating experience, right? So let's say this is kind of a real time situation, and let's say I want to address this, right? And let's say I kind of, if you think about this scenario, right, it involves a lot of real-time decision making, right? On top of that, let's say the one part is not available. Can I offer something else to customer from a better customer experience, right? So there are a lot of pieces involved in this particular part, in this particular use case, right? So if you look at the high-level scenario here, I'll not go very deep, but the idea here is one thing is the real-time intelligence component, which is going to help on that real-time scenarios. The other is if the same part is not available, I want to do something like, hey, can I get a relevant product recommendations? So I have a separate data agent specific to that kind of a thing. And then there are other kind of a data agent specific to the specific task. For example, creating a dynamic offer or offering some discounts, right? So within the Fabric ecosystem, I'm leveraging all these data agents as well as the real-time intelligence component. But on top of that, I'm combining this to the AI, right? So like whoever is building kind of agent or whatever, like the custom copilot or whatever on top of it, they can leverage this end-to-end knowledge coming from the fabric actually. So with that, let's look at the just quickly high level the workflow, right, for data agent. So you create a data agent, you select a specific data source, right? Now in terms of data source, I think we support right now like lakehouse, warehouse, and I think I see the semantic model event house already coming in, right? And you select your data source and then you kind of select specific tables within that data source, and then you can start kind of asking questions. In future, we will have a dedicated session on this, and we will show you like how you can tune or optimize kind of data agents before you expose to your end consumers, right? So there are a lot of things we can kind of cover or discuss specific to data agents. But for now, once you configure this and you can publish it, and then your application developers or your citizen developer on Copilot Studio side, they can consume it, right? So if I just quickly like show you the demo here. So let me do one thing. So in this particular demo, right, what we are doing is within the Microsoft Fabric, right, we have a packaging delivery related data, and we're gonna create the data agent on top of this package delivery data, right, and see how the data agent works from all the data within the Fabric. So if you look at here, we have a deliveries like a KQL database, and within that, I'm adding that as a source. And KQL is really super powerful on this kind of a time series kind of a data, and it helps you doing analytics on top of that kind of a data, right? So now I can ask kind of start asking the questions here, right? And it will start kind of listing out. It will also show the reasoning, like how this answer coming. It builds the query behind the scene, right? So based on your question. Now here is the one thing, if you notice on the left, right, as of now I have only one particular data source, which is KQL. But what about this? Like if you add another data source, like maybe semantic model or maybe your reports. So as soon as you start adding more data sources, the orchestrator within the Fabric itself, based on your question, it automatically understands like this data coming from, let's say, a particular semantic model or particular reports. So it's automatically orchestrator helps you with kind of, bringing data from a different sources, right? So this is what kind of it's kind of, doing here, like adding more data sources and kind of, yes, once you ask your question, it will automatically determine like, hey, which data source I should kind of, uh, pick for the response. So now let's say the key part here is domain team can help validate this data quality perspective, or whether the data is kind of, certified or really kind of looking good. Once they kind of make that decision, now it's time to kind of publish this data agent to the kind of on the Fabric side, and then consumer can use it, right? So I think within this now it will kind of publish the data agent, and then we can see how we can use it for the next action actually. So once you, I think, start publishing this within the Fabric, right? Now let's see how we can basically, leverage this. So we built package delivery specific data agents with the grounding data from Fabric. Now, in this particular example, what we are doing is, so here, let's say your data agent is already produced within the Fabric. Now we're going to create a, let's say, Copilot Studio. We are creating an agent kind of, or Copilot, custom Copilots. And what we're going to do is we're going to refer that kind of a data agent created in Fabric actually. So now let's say we created this custom Copilot or agent here. And if you look at when I add the knowledge, I'm going to select the Fabric. And within Fabric, I'm going to pick up that particular kind of a data agent we just created, right? So now you can see the contours of sales expert is the data agent coming from Fabric, right? So now when I am asking question for end users, they don't know whether the data coming from Fabric or where kind of, so it's very, let's say you have a use case where some of the data coming from Fabric, some of the data coming from M365 ecosystem. So you can do mix and match with all the different grounding data source and kind of, ask your questions. And here it's kind of adding kind of a, further kind of a trigger on top of it. So whenever, rather than customer ask questions, this particular chat will be kind of triggered based on a particular email or something, right? So let me see, let me check the time. So I think we have 5 minutes left. So I'll pause this demo. So on top of this demo, one thing I just wanted to quickly show you is the one of the hot of the press kind of announcement we just within Microsoft Fabric, Microsoft Build we just launched. So if you look at here, I'm in my Teams right now, right? And you might have used the Power BI Copilot within the Fabric environment, but we do have a new kind of a experience, which is standalone kind of Copilot within the Teams. So now you can use this Copilot here within the Teams itself. And whatever data agents or kind of reports or semantic model you created, you can use that. So let's see if I click on reports, and then I want to ask some questions based on this report, right? So I can select a particular report here. So let's say I'm selecting this report here, right? And then I want to add one more data source, for example, semantic model, right? So I can select a particular kind of a, semantic model, and then I can ask questions here. Basically, you don't need to be within the Fabric. This Copilot is kind of a standalone Copilot experience within the Teams itself. And when I ask questions, right, what I really like about this one for your end users, they really don't need to jump out of Teams. And it also refers the data agents or semantic model or reports you build behind the scene, right? So you can combine everything, whether your data agents, your reports, and start asking questions on top of that. Now, when it answers the question, if you look at this, right, one of the things I super interesting here, it's really showing you the reasoning behind the scene, like how really Copilot arrived at this particular response. So when you click on that, it gives me like, hey, 2 hotels here. But at the same time, I can see like what data used and everything behind the scene. I can explore the data here itself within the teams, right? So all of that goodness like comes with this experience. And think about your domain users or business users, rather than they spend too much time on this kind of heavy lifting, they can utilize this experience. So with that, yeah, we would like to open this for kind of Q&A, and open for your feedback and thoughts and questions. So one of the questions I see on the chat, right, like how does the Gen AI work with Fabric? So I think within Fabric, we have all the different kind of, experience, like data science experience within the Fabric. Of course, you can, as you mentioned in the chat, like you can directly connect your data sources to Copilot Studio. But the idea here is within Fabric, first of all, you build a strong data foundation, unify your data, you clean and prep, and then you can use it for kind of building your AI applications, right? So somewhere you need to do the data engineering or data pipelines where you kind of prep and clean the data before start using it. So even though you use it with any other AI application, let's say without Fabric, but at the end, somewhere you're going to do that kind of data engineering work, right? And that's where the Fabric really helps you, so the way you should think is like Fabric and AI kind of, better together, right? But happy to hear your feedback or thoughts. Feel free to unmute and ask any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Aldrin, for posting this question. And as we mentioned that in order to leverage AI, your data has to be ready, and Fabric is the great way to do that. If anyone has a question, feel free to unmute themselves, post it on the chat. We're happy to follow up with you. Prashant, thank you for an inspiring demo. Thank you, Prashant and Balaji, for valuable insights on what is possible with Fabric. Give us, yes, an applause, thumbs up or a heart if you liked what Prashant and Balaji presented, and if that insights was valuable for you on how to explore Fabric to transform your data strategy within your organization. I know we're out of time, but happy to schedule a follow-up meeting if you have any further questions or you'd like to learn more about a specific topic. Thank you for all our attendees for giving us your time. Keep an eye on a follow-up email with the session recording, with the slides, and we're also offering a Fabric readiness briefing with our data and AI specialist, Balaji, to dive deep into how you can leverage Fabric within your organization. Thank you for your time. Keep data-driven, and see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.